This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? It is game day for Team Canada at the Four Nations. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We've got a lot to get to and a very busy show before tonight. We finally get to see a true best Canadian team put together, taking on Sweden in a game that, there's no wiggle room in this tournament with 3 round robin games to get to the final. Got to have a good result in the first one. We'll be all over it. We'll hear from Josh Morrissey as well as Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby before we sort of dive into some guests. And we've got a few guests today. Murat is going to join us. Can't wait to talk to him about the Jets at the break and his thoughts on the Four Nations tournament. We're also going to welcome in Rob Mullowney from the Winnipeg Jets, who's their VP of sales and service. This is a big time for the Jets. They've got a big promo going on to try to continue getting people back or new season ticket holders with the carrot of playoff tickets. So we'll find out a little bit more about that and just how things are going at this point in the season with the team playing so well and certainly some better crowds over the course of the last 30, 35 games of the season. A little later on, we'll get John Hodge's thoughts on everything shaking out in CFL Free Agency. And the Moose are in the middle of a big homestand, actually playing tonight. Dan Fink's going to join us as well. We'll get the latest on the Moose, who had a big win on the weekend. We'll find out a little bit more about how Elias Salmonson's doing now that he's returned to the lineup. So we got a very busy show. Lots to get to today. We will let you know we've got a nice bid on the Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge package for the Health Sciences Center Foundation, where I'll be hosting. We'll let you know how you can bid on that. Info on the Maker's Mark Masterclass Whiskey Festival event we're doing on February 27th, and much more. Obviously, I also want to thank all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Our friends at Coolbet Canada and Princess Auto, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Manitoba Battery, St. Vital Dental Center, Rolly's Transfer, fansfirst.ca, the Winnipeg Jets, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, and Royal Sports, which, by the way, is where I got this sweet Josh Morrissey. Can you see that? Josh Morrissey nice jersey to wear for the game today. So I'm ready to go. Hopefully the Canadians are ready to go. I think they will be, and I know Michael Remis is ready to go. What's going on?
Yeah, looking pretty sharp in that jersey. Tico Napoli notes, it looks that red is way better than the Chiefs red that you wore on Friday's show. But hopefully you get some wins. And yeah, I mean, this, I'm thinking about this tournament tonight and, a lot of my old hockey memories growing up watching 02 or 04, 2010, 2014. And it's like a whole generation here hasn't had an opportunity to play best on best. So, you can say what you want about the tournament, but we haven't seen Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon play together on the same team. I think it's going to be incredible, but I think it's going to be a tough matchup tonight. We want to say, oh, Canada, look at their power play, look how stacked it is. Sweden's got a pretty damn good team, too. I looked at their team. They got some, I don't know which of their power play is power play 1 or power play 2 either. So I think it's going to be a great game, great tournament opener, and let's go. Nothing else on tonight. There's no Jets hockey, so we are tuned in. There's Moose, but we are tuned into seeing what Josh Morrissey and Team Canada can do against Sweden. So I'm fired up.
a lot of talk about the jersey that I'm wearing. For those of you listening on the podcast, it is a Team Canada Josh Morrissey jersey. Get on down to Royal Sports before they're gone if you want to pick one of those up. And I know Cowboy was asking, I'll just move the mic, what this logo is. This is the, I guess, the logo of the Four Nations tournament. So
that's what that is on the thing.
If you can see that.
I like the shoulder or the jersey patch on all of them with the Four Nations face-off logo. That's cool.
Yeah, you know what? And if you really dive in, you probably won't. Well, actually, maybe let's see if this
we're in
works.
HD now.
We're in HD now. If you look at the
there's like a maple leaf in the sleeves there.
Yeah,
that's some cool detail.
There's some really intricate. The USA jerseys are amazing like that too. There's some intricate. I don't even know what you call this because it's not stitching, but there's actually woven maple leaves throughout the area in between these two, the two white stripes, or I believe they're termed as maple today. So there's our little jersey segment on the thing. We'll see how they look on the fellas tonight. Man, it's going to be great to see Josh represent Canada. By the way, I'm sort of burying the lead today, starting off with Four Nations. I do want to thank everyone that joined us for the poker tournament last night. I will wait to Barry Horowitz myself because first I'll congratulate Randy D, a.k.a. Randy River, who won the entire tournament at my expense as I finished second. Remis, I think that time in Costa Rica with some actually really good poker players at a high-level event helped me going into this one. Made it all the way, and man, we went heads up for about 50 minutes. Randy was a tough nut to crack, and he did live up to his namesake by rivering me big time on a flush on a very big hand early on when I had about probably 65% of the stack to his 35%, and that flipped.
Oh, man.
And at that point, anytime I was really trying to give it to him, he didn't want any of it, and huge blinds. Anyways, great time last night. Shout out to all the Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners that joined us. And I'll tell you what, the great performances by WST. I know Cowboy was right there till the end. I think he was at the final table. Schnitzy had a great run. And he's in chat right there. What's up, Zach? Poker tournament was lit, so much fun. And then it did come down to a WST head-to-head between myself and Randy River and Randy D, your champion. And Randy D is probably the number one ranked WSTer now. He's had a second and now a win in the Lockshaw Poker Series.
Yeah, WST cleaning up in the money there, Huss, at the Lockshaw Poker Series. So congratulations to you. You were hyping up your 7 hours at the table in Costa Rica. Practice certainly paid off for you there. And Randy, he's been a good player this whole time. He wants, on the notifications in our Discord when the poker tournaments get announced. So I let him know. And as you mentioned, a second before and now a first, he is up there. For me personally, it wasn't my best tournament. Still trying to find the form that I had when I finished second in the inaugural. So I don't know. I think I got to go to Costa Rica, Huss, and spend 7 hours at a table, and then I'll just come back and get second. I'm pretty sure that's the recipe.
Maybe I'll see if we can both go next year, and if you can get away from your other duties, and then make it happen. By the way, T. Conopoli's in there. I was just about to say I did not see your message. You sent it to me on Insta. You have a very strange way of communicating with people. And I was wondering whether you even had the technological access for me to do an e-transfer to you. But just let me know what email you want that done, and I will send it to you during the show today, especially now that the coffers are a little bit better after last night's poker win. But listen, let's get to it. We're going to hear from Josh Morrissey. But before we do that, Reem, if you want to maybe switch the camera and throw on the
sorry,
and throw on the auction. We've teamed up, and if you missed the last couple of shows, I think you all know that the Health Sciences Center was a home to me for a few months when I really needed it, and it continues to provide the most important services to our community. The Fund a Need campaign is going on right now. They've got their massive gala, which I believe is sold out on the 22nd. But we're looking to get donations to help the HSC Fund establish a special bedside monitor that assesses the effectiveness of CPR to patients experiencing cardiac arrest, 2 point-of-care ultrasound units for faster bedside diagnoses, and 2 rapid infusers for safer blood transfusions. Now, you can go to the link, and the link is in the description here, and simply make a donation. Obviously, any donation, $25 or more, you'll get a tax receipt for it. It's great to support. But as you can see on the screen right now, they've got an amazing online auction right now. Now, you Jet fans should take a look at, there's a couple great Jet packages with tickets for games, one with an autographed jersey by the club. There's a trip for 4 to go to Green Bay to see the Green Bay Packers. Amazing prize. And then the one I'm hoping some of you have already got a bid on this, to join me hosting you and a friend for 3 incredible days on the water and nights at the world famous Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. If you're longtime listeners know, Aikens is probably my favorite 3 or 4 days of the year. It is truly something that you need to be there and experience it. The people, the staff, the fishing, the food, it's top drawer. But if you win this auction, we'll see you in the morning for breakfast. We'll get out on the water. We'll hook up for an incredible shore lunch. Get back on the water, have dinner, incredible dinners at the lodge, and then a few cold ones at Big Molly's later on. So the link is in the description here. We'll also throw it into the chat. The auction goes until 10 p.m. on February 22nd. So keep your eyes on that. And if you do make a bid, you'll also get notified when other people bid, so you can stay on that. So let's help out the Health Sciences Center Foundation with the Fund a Need campaign, something very important to me, something very important to our community, and even better if one of our Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners or viewers can have an amazing few days out on the water, Aikens Lake, and would love to be your host for that. So let's get on that and keep this thing rolling. Again, the link is in the description. We'll also throw it up. It's pinned on my Twitter page at Hustlerama or on X. So if you're listening on the podcast, just head over there, click on the link, get your bid in, and let's go. One other thing, just before we hear from Josh Morrissey, tickets are going fast for the Whiskey Masterclass event with Maker's Mark. We're hosting that at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, February 27th. It will also be a pseudo Jets watch party because we'll have the Jets and Preds up on the big screen. Anyone that went last year knows what an amazing event this was. It's sold out. It is going to sell out again. So do not wait to get your tickets for this. We'll throw a link in the description as well. I think we're under 20 tickets now for this one left. Are we not, Remis? Yeah. We got 20 tickets left. We had 50. Left. So they're going very quickly. They will be gone soon. If you are a fan of whiskey, and this is really neat. We'll be doing bourbons in this one. Very topical because we'll be playing the Nashville Predators that day. But jump on it. Micah Dew will be there to teach us all about it. We'll have a couple special reserve limited edition casks that we'll be trying, as well as a bunch of others. Incredible charcuterie board they provided us last year. We'll do some giveaways and prizes and hopefully watch the Jets whoop the Predators at the same time. February 27th, link in the description. Grab your tickets before they are gone. All right, to get ready for Four Nations, Josh Morrissey jumped on with the guys on 32 Thoughts. And, well, here's Josh on just the experience of walking into that Canada dressing room after being named to the Four Nations Club representing the Winnipeg Jets.
Pretty cool. I mean, I think on one hand, it's really nice to be able to connect with guys that you played with in the past at, you know, world championships or, you know, world juniors or different things like that. But also just the pride that comes with being on, Team Canada and seeing the Maple Leaf everywhere, and the players that are here. I think for me, that's just it's such an amazing, surreal experience to walk in and be hanging with the best players in the world. And I think all of us are excited and just want to obviously make Canada proud and go out there and play as well, play our best game. But it's just pretty cool to be in the room with those guys. And like I said, once you, I guess, just start hanging out, everyone's just hockey players. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
Opportunity, but also I will have to say a lot of pressure to perform, and it starts tonight against the Swedes, 7 p.m. Winnipeg time. Josh is an absolute leader here with the Winnipeg Jets. Maybe a little different playing on such a star-studded team for Team Canada. He was asked if he kind of carries himself differently in the Canada dressing room than he might here in Winnipeg in the Jets room.
I think the focus, or what we've talked about, is obviously everyone's here for a reason. Whether it's there are different styles of games, skill sets, personalities, leadership abilities. So, obviously bringing that to the team here, you can't come in and defer or not be who you are, because that's the reason you've been selected to be here. So at the same time, obviously there's 23 guys on the roster, and there's going to be different roles and opportunities and all that stuff. And I think that's the biggest thing in my experience playing for Canada in the past is just whatever you're asked to do, you need to do it, and obviously do it to the best of your abilities. Be able to change your game if need be, or play a different position or spot than maybe you do night in, night out in the NHL. So, but it's a lot of fun when you're playing with a bunch of the best players in the world and against a bunch of the best players in the world for your country. That challenge of taking on a new role if need be or whatever it is exciting, and I think something that guys really relish.
Listen, I mean, Josh, we all know that he deserves to be on this team. I mean, you had some people, Matt Larkin, who said, I don't have Josh Morrissey on my team. People just don't see the Jets enough. They're going to get a chance to see him play with the best against the best in the world beginning tonight. Morrissey was asked also when it kind of sank in that he's amongst this elite group and was selected to represent Canada.
Yeah, obviously, I'd be lying if it wasn't on my mind through the first part of the season, waiting to hear and see the announcements. So that moment of finding out I was on the team was pretty cool. Something I'll never forget, and just something I take with a lot of pride and respect. But then definitely, you're busy every day, like you say, with the NHL. So I think probably set in after we finished our last game. We played on Friday and had a day in Winnipeg to get packed up and ready to come out to Montreal. And, that was kind of when the butterflies started to kick in for me. I guess even throughout the year playing against guys, seeing them on the other side, knowing that you're going to be teammates in the next few weeks, was pretty cool. So there's some of those moments, but it really set in once we finished and, got the Team Canada hockey bag and we're headed to the airport. So
still get nervous?
I think it's more excited, to be honest with you. Like, there's so many guys that we've all played with before and have past relationships with. So I think that you feel comfortable in that setting. And, I'm just excited to play with these guys. And, it's something we haven't had in a long time. Through my whole career, there has never been a best on best. So to get this opportunity is something that, I think everyone's really excited about.
Imagine how fired up Josh is, and really all of those players, especially that younger generation, the Team North America guys from the World Cup in 2016. But here's one more from the Jet defense, and just talked about the honor of being amongst this group and playing for Team Canada.
It's a huge honor. I think when I think about my career and all the different things that the levels you're trying to get to as a player, certainly. When the national team is being selected, if you have an opportunity to play for that team and you're chosen, I think it's a huge honor. There's just so much respect that I have for the game, for the guys that have played on Team Canada in the past, the history that, the national team has in the Olympics and World Cups and everything else. And you want to play with pride for the history and continue that on. So, individually, and then thinking a lot broader to what it means to be on this team and the guys that have worn this sweater in the past. It's I almost can't describe how much it means to me, and definitely just can't wait to go out there and play and compete with these guys. To hopefully carry that legacy forward.
So there's Josh Morrissey. You can hear the entire interview on a special edition of 32 Thoughts today. And, Remo, just listening to that, it does make me even, I'm so happy for Josh that he gets the opportunity to do this and a bunch of those younger players. But I think they also know what comes with this, and that is great expectations and, frankly, a lot of pressure going into tonight. But also just hearing how well-spoken he is, talking about what it means to him. This is big for the players. This isn't just going to the All-Star game, as some bad takes have floated out in recent weeks. And got to tell you, what a representative of the Winnipeg Jets we have on Team Canada, despite the fact that we really should have two, as we all know.
Yeah, last time, when when they did Best on Best in Sochi, there wasn't a Jet on Team Canada. Even at the World Cup, they didn't have a Jet either. So certainly exciting from a local perspective to see Josh Morrissey playing as well as he has, get rewarded, and listening to him talk about it. What an honor it is to be a part of that team and how special you feel getting the call. I saw John Cooper talking about just he told Drew Doughty he was on the team and he reacted like he won the lottery. So these guys know that they're in an elite group of players, extremely special to have this opportunity, and nice that it's back, and hopefully we can continue this tradition of best on best hockey, with more than 4 countries in the future, and the goal is to do that next year. I guess it would be this time next year at the Winter Olympics. So this is a nice little kickoff, nice 2-week break here, and a bunch of guys getting rested and recharged, but another group of players getting set for what we hope is intense, really, really good hockey and entertaining hockey too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, listen, we're going to hear from some of the big dogs on Canada: McDavid, Crosby, Nate McKinnon. We'll get to the lines in a moment for both Canada and Sweden. But Connor McDavid might not be wearing the C. He will be centering the top line. He will be expected to be Connor McDavid. Here is McDavid on finally getting the chance to represent Canada in a true best on best.
Waited a long time to play in one of these events, to represent my country, play for Team Canada, but lots of guys are in that boat, It's been a while for everybody, feels like a kind of a new generation, with obviously some familiar faces for everybody, but you think about Austin or Jack or Willie Nylander for Sweden, these guys haven't had the opportunity. So as I said, everybody's in the same boat here. This is new for 99% of the guys here, and we're excited about it.
Go as far as 99%, but McDavid's point is well taken. I mean, when you look at Canada, certainly Sidney Crosby has some experience. Brad Marchand has some experience in this sort of event, playing with the best that your team can put together. And I think that's part of the reason why I think they added Drew Doughty over a Mackenzie Weegar at the end with Alex Pietrangelo out, Remis, is that, it is so new for the top players on both teams. For Canada, certainly to have a guy like Crosby, but, also Marchand and in particularly Doughty, could be important during some tough moments in a tournament where you can't have very many.
Yeah, I think they'll certainly lean on that experience. We do have the lines here. So Reinhart, McDavid, Marner, Crosby, McKinnon, Stone, Marchand, Point, Jarvis, Hagel, Surly, Konechny, and Sam Bennett is the healthy scratch. Taves, Makar, Morrissey, Parayko, Theodore, Doughty, Jordan Binnington getting the start and goal. And yeah, I think having those players with that experience from 2010 and Drew Doughty and Crosby and Marchand was later. I think it's certainly a factor. You need some leaders in the room, and they want to go with Drew Doughty, and he needs to ramp up as well for the LA Kings playoff run. He's been injured. He did come back 2 weeks or whatever it was before the break. So he's actually rocking number 89, which I found interesting because Makar is number 8. I always find the line changing for Team Canada fascinating. Not a lot of that going on this year. Morrissey rocking the 44. But we'll see how these lines shake out. And I mean, the power play is going to be, I think, so. Like, I'm just excited to see these guys on a power play with McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, Makar, and Reinhart. It's going to be awesome. So, I mean, a great group of players, and it's just I'm hearing a lot of the word excited from the players just to get this going, and I think you're hearing that from fans as well.
Well, and and we heard from Josh, I think there will be some nerves as well going into it. And listen, we're talking about Josh Morrissey representing Winnipeg, and have to give congratulations and a good luck to our 2 Winnipeg natives on the team, Vegas Golden Knights captain Mark Stone and young up-and-coming forward Seth Jarvis. Just a great opportunity for those two, and continuing to, calling it following in the footsteps of Jonathan Taves, having Winnipeg natives, on part of these great collections of the best hockey talent in the country. We just heard from McDavid. Let's hear from the captain, Sid the Kid. Not quite a kid anymore, but certainly brings a lot of experience to the room. Here's what Crosby had to say about the advice he has to, this young generation that hasn't been able to play at this level or in a tournament like this before.
I think to enjoy it. I mean, obviously being here in Canada, I think there's going to be pressure and a lot of eyes, but you've got to do what has gotten you to this point, what makes you successful, and try to just focus in on what we need to do and on getting better and being a better team every day. So like I said earlier, a lot of guys have been in this situation, have been in high stakes environments, so it's nothing new for them, but I think in a short-term event like this, that becomes even more important. The speed, the execution, those are the 2 biggest things. As far as the details, they don't change. I mean, the details that make you successful, regular season playoffs, are still just as important, when you get to this level. But I think those 2 things probably stick out the most.
There's Sid, the captain of Team Canada, back in his familiar number 87 in red and white. We just talked about how cool it is to have 2 Winnipeggers on the team in Stone and Jarvis. Imagine being from Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, both from the small suburb of Halifax, and now potentially playing together. They will on the Canadian power play. Here's Mac on having Sidney Crosby on the team and getting a chance to play with him for their country.
I'm sure there's a lot of successful people that no one really wants to be around, but guys just are gravitated towards him. He's just such a leader. He's got an awesome personality. He's a great storyteller. He's just a fun guy to be around. So I think all of us do. I made a joke, like half our team grew up being a huge fan of him. So this is his first time playing with a bunch of fans, which is funny. But yeah,
autographs back there.
Yeah, we were getting pictures and stuff. But no, it's just someone you want to be around, and definitely our leader for sure.
All right, so there you have it from the Team Canada locker room and media day beforehand, all heading into tonight. We're going to talk about it with Murat coming up. And just to give you a quick heads up on the Sweden lines, Elias Pettersson's going to be in between Philip Forsberg and Adrian Kempe. Kempe is such a great player. A lot of people don't see enough of him playing those late-night games on the West Coast. You got Mika Zibanejad in between Ricard Raquel and Willie Nylander. Their shutdown line is going to have Joel Eriksson Ek in the middle of Lucas Raymond and Jesper Bratt. And, I mean, that line can score as well, but I would imagine you'll see that line put up against the top two Canadian lines, most of the time. And then Elias Lindholm with Victor Arvidsson and Gustav Nyquist. The blue line's a big advantage. A big. I mean, listen, you're throwing out Victor Hedman, Jonas Brodin, Ekholm, Carlson, Forsling, Rasmus Dahlin, and looks like Philip Gustafson's going to get the start in net, and of course Jordan Binnington. The one thing that does make some Canadian fans nervous is a perceived advantage at goaltending for the other teams. Binnington is going to need to step up tonight. So we'll get to all of that coming up in just a few minutes. Hey, a big thanks to our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their support of WST. Keep your eyes out on the road for the new Rolly's Transfer Winnipeg Sports Talk truck. We'll be doing a contest in the summer to spot that on the road, but it's going to be all over the place because Rolly's Transfer, family owned and operated for over 60 years, is the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. They're all over the province in southern Manitoba on a daily basis. If you have a move coming up for you and your family, what you're going to want to do is head on over to Rollies.com, click on the request an estimate feature in the top right corner, and put in the promo code WST. Let them know where you're planning on moving, when you need to go, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in for the white glove treatment from Rollies Transfer on your next move. If you're moving this year, take as much stress out of it as possible with the experts, the most trusted name in moving for over 60 years, Rollies Transfer. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. A big thanks to one of our newest sponsors, the team at St. Vital Dental Center. Shout out to my pal Dr. Terry and his great staff over there. If you've been negligent, and I know it happens, if you've been negligent at seeing a dentist, it's very important to get back in there and prevent what can happen from long times away from the dentist. And Dr. Terry and the gang at St. Vital Center are ready for you and can work on teeth from 6 months all the way to 99 plus. They've had generations of families utilizing St. Vital Dental Center, and they have moved in recent years to a beautiful new facility over at 167 St. Anne's. You can find them online at stvitaldental.ca or simply give them a phone call at 204-233-5164. And I will tell you this, big WST office as well. And if you've got a Friday afternoon off and you have to go anyways, you might want to plan for around 3:30. You can get your marbles entry in on your phone, and they'll fire it up on the YouTube for you while they work on your grill. But for all your dental needs, head on over to St. Vital Dental Center, 167 St. Anne's, 233-5164, and stvitaldental.ca. Man, this cold is not going away anytime soon, unfortunately, for all of us. But we are hardy. But is your car battery hardy? That is what you've probably found out already this winter and might be on the verge. Now, if you are worried that you need a new battery, get down to Manitoba Battery, Logan Avenue or Dover Court Drive. They'll give you a free battery test right then and there and let you know how you're looking. If you do need one, you'll be able to take advantage of shopping local, getting the best prices in town, and a core exchange for an extra discount right then and there. I know Scott Westman went in. He said the price beat Costco by $40. He was in and out in 5 minutes. It really is that easy. So, I mean, we're worrying about the cars and trucks right now. We'll get into all the fun battery usage for the summer coming up soon. But in the meantime, for all your battery needs, Manitoba Battery, 2 locations, manitobabattery.com, and they will deliver to you for free with any purchase over $60 inside the perimeter of Winnipeg. All right, Murat's joining us in just a few minutes, but we figured at this break, there's been a lot of talk about attendance and how the Winnipeg Jets need to, maybe follow the footsteps of their first place hockey team by doing a lot of work behind the scenes to try to get that season ticket base. And if you've been at a game over the last couple weeks. You will notice that as we head into the playoffs, a nice carrot for fans who are thinking about making a deposit on a package for next season. We figured this is a perfect time to welcome in Rob Mullowney, the new VP of Sales and Service for the Winnipeg Jets, to find out how things are going, we move it in the right direction, and let people know how they can count themselves in for the playoffs and next year. Rob, pleasure to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk for the first time. How are you?
I'm very good. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you on. And, we were just saying beforehand, we share many interesting similarities and backgrounds, bouncing around, selling tickets and corporate sponsorships and helping put butts in seats. And, outside of the job that Kevin Cheveldayoff and Scott Arniel have right now, and obviously the players winning games, I don't think it is out of line to say you have one of the most important jobs in the organization right now. We've known where the team has been for the last couple seasons, trying to get back to where they've been for a long time. And I imagine you and your team have been working just as hard as the players on the ice to try to get back to where this team needs to be going into the future.
Yeah, well, thanks for that intro. Pressure is a privilege, as they say. It's been a lot of fun, and it is very busy. Very busy. Teams working really hard, trying to, one day at a time, keep pushing forward. We're going to talk about deposits, I think, today, and our season ticket renewals. But it's a really busy time. But as someone once told me, it's always important in this business to work in a place where hockey matters, and hockey really matters here. And the fact that I'm on having a conversation with you is just another indication of that. So looking forward to the conversation.
Before we kind of get into everything that's happening in this amazing season right now and the exciting games to come and obviously the playoffs, for someone as experienced as you that's worked with a number of NHL, AHL teams, the Vancouver Olympics, what tell us about taking the job, coming here, accepting this challenge, and sort of what you've learned about, the Jets and the work that needed to be done to get to where you want to be, and that's a sold-out building every night.
Yeah, well, maybe first for me, worked in sports a long time, in particular in hockey. And, really simplistically, at the end of the day, there's nothing better than an NHL team, and there's nothing better than an NHL team in Canada. So while some people said, hey, you're moving from Vancouver and now you're going to be in Winnipeg, have you checked the forecast? And I'll always say, well, hey, I grew up in Newfoundland where, someone says, what's the weather like there on a Wednesday? Well, usually it's 100-kilometer winds and a blizzard. It was actually an easy decision. Certainly been really enjoying my time since I've been here. But I would say it's probably also the opportunity and the challenge that presented itself that we're working on day to day. Like that was honestly really appealing to me. So it's certainly been that, and really excited about what we've already accomplished, but more importantly, building on the momentum that we've created and keeping the things moving forward.
I imagine, from your perspective, and I can say this from experience, I mean, there's nothing like an exciting product to help move the operation along. And got to tell you, the guys that are putting the jerseys on every night certainly have been helping out, try and re-engage fans, get people back in. I mean, I can honestly say that despite the last couple of years and the shortcomings in the playoffs, like right now at this Four Nations break, fans are excited as I have seen them since really the 17-18 season, which was certainly the most magical we've had since the team returned.
No, 100%. The team has been fantastic. And, to use a bit of a sales vernacular with you, right? It just removes another objection when you're trying to convince people to come to a game and see the product and invest in season tickets. It's the team performance it just removes that out of the equation. And again, I would say it adds another reason to come because the team has been performing so well and has created so much excitement. So having been in the business as long as I've had, I've seen the ups and I've seen the downs, and much rather be in this position today than anything else.
Now, I mean, listen, there's a lot of work left to be done this season before we even get to the playoffs and next year. The Jets are back on the 24th of February against the San Jose Sharks. A number of games, and we really have seen a nice uptick in game day sales in overall. But and I'll ask you this, knowing the answer already, but I'll let you tell the folks how integral, important is growing our season ticket base back to where it was before for the long-term viability of the club?
Yeah, so I've been asked that question a few times, and if we think about this year as an example, and the growth that we're seeing, it really starts with our renewal rate, and we go back to this time last year, going out to our season ticket holders and launching our renewal campaign. We renewed 95% of that base, so that just is a really positive step forward. If you renew only at 90%, that just puts you another step behind as you come into a new season. So the membership base is a massive part of our success. But as we build on top of that, and as we come into this year, I would say to you, we've seen strong growth in our group sales program. We've seen strong growth in our a single game product. We've seen strong growth in what we call package additionals, which is, essentially our season ticket holders that are purchasing more tickets. So you could make the argument as your base is bigger, that group buying additional tickets. So as we've often sometimes said in our sales meetings, we're talking about the layers of the cake, and they're all layers of the cake to get us to the end. And so again, back to the membership, it's mission critical for us to have as big of a base as we can.
And that's been the message over the last couple of years, and it's been great, I think, for Jet fans to see some positive momentum after some erosion for a few years. And in a lot of ways, this break right now is a perfect opportunity to sort of re-engage fans, look ahead to what will hopefully be an incredibly fun playoff run in the spring at Canada Life Center, but also to next season. I mean, I don't have to tell you or anybody watching this show, we've talked about it enough, that when you look at where the salary cap is confirmed to be going, I mean, these aren't just projections. It's going to make, the Winnipeg Jets lot in life a little bit more difficult. And with that, you want to get as close as possible to a full building. And it really does start with season tickets. Now, I can say as a season ticket holder, there's so many great benefits of having it. I mean, just the 25% off beers and pop and whatnot at games is great. Obviously, you're getting the best price, and whether you're sharing seats or whether you're in a partial package. And there's many different ways for people to get involved. But I think right now people are realizing that, while in the past, it maybe you being able to get tickets one way or the other. I mean, not only is this a first place team that I think deserves a full building, there's a lot of people that, through different circumstances haven't been able to do it over the last number of years that are hoping to come back. And it's kind of a sign of a nice tie-in to the upcoming playoffs, which everyone's going to be a part of, and an incentive for folks to come back, to put a deposit on a package for next season and get ahead of the line for some of the best seats at Canada Life Center for the whiteout.
Yeah, no question. I think, if we talk about the playoffs and the excitement that's in the market, we've been hearing, for many years, not just this year or last year, but many years, that one of the number one benefits we provide our season ticket holders is the opportunity to get those playoff tickets and be front of the line, best price, best seats. And so using that as an opportunity to either encourage someone who used to be with us to come back, or someone brand new who wants to become a member, it's really good opportunity right now with how the team is playing, where we're positioned in the standings, and the momentum that we've talked about building, to give them the opportunity to access that asset, which is getting playoff tickets by putting down a deposit and acquiring their tickets for next season.
Rob, when we were speaking with somebody from the advisory group, they mentioned that they were, working on putting and connecting Jet fans together that maybe wanted to be part of a season ticket package. I mean, I know I'm in on a couple of seats. I mean, I've got my brother and another friend that shares with us in my upper bowl, and I've got, my parents that I'm splitting in the lower bowl. And it's a great way to do it because, you can always trade with one of your partners, based on a game if something comes up. And obviously you've got the ability for best seats. If there are Jet fans right now that are thinking, I'd love to be in a season ticket package, but I'm not sure that I could do it myself. Is there a way to connect with other fans right now? Are we still doing that? And what would you suggest to people that would like to be in on seasons, would like to be in a share operation, but right now just within their circle might not be able to do that?
Yeah, what I would say to them is go to our website right now, winnipegjets.com, put your deposit down, but we can have that conversation with you and we can help facilitate that. And to your point, I may be an individual. I'm looking at it that I need a partner. I want someone else to share the seats with. But hey, there's someone else out there that's in the exact same situation. We can absolutely help facilitate that. As I say that, I think it's fair to say from where we are today with other packages, including, not just our full, but our half and our quarter season. We also introduced earlier this year a Biz Flex Pass, which is essentially a more flexible ticket package. We offer flexible payment options. I do feel like we can help a customer do it on their own. But at the same time, to your point in your question, we absolutely can help facilitate and put people together to get them into that, what would be a shared partner situation.
Rob Mullowney's with us from True North and the Winnipeg Jets, looking ahead to the playoffs and the promotion going on right now to put a deposit down on seats for next year and count yourself in for the playoffs. Rob, you can tell, listen, this is I'm passionate about this, having experience in this, but also as a season ticket holder, as a Jets fan, as someone that cares about this city, that wants this team to excel on the ice and off the ice. So I'm really happy you were able to come here and kind of connect with our Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners and viewers. In addition to getting a deposit down on next season, is there anything else? You mentioned that Biz Flex Pass. Is there any other things that maybe average fans, those of us that maybe haven't been in contact with you guys, might be missing that you want to kind of get out to folks about ways that they can support the team, ways they can get behind it, whether it be in the short term this season or for the playoffs in next year?
Well, I think what I would say to your audience or anyone that's listening is at the end of the day, just come out to a game. Like, if you haven't been to a game in a long time for various reasons, and we all understand there's lots of reasons why, it could be just life is busy, just come out to a game. Come to Canada Life Center, experience the team, experience what we're talking about. And, I really believe this. Oftentimes, that's the single most barrier, is just coming to the game for the first time or coming back for the first time in a long time. So that's what I would just encourage people is come out to a game. There's lots of opportunities to come to a game down the stretch here. We've got so many different opportunities and packages that we can put a fan in, but it just comes back to come out to a game. Come out to a game, enjoy it, see us for the first hand. It's the best hockey in the world right here in Winnipeg. It's a tremendous opportunity, and it's something that it's really, like I said earlier, it's just a privilege to be part of. So excited for what's to come here.
Well, listen, cannot wait for the rest of this stretch. And speaking of coming to a game, a nice chance for me to plug our WST section. We're 5-0 this year, gang. We're going to go hopefully 6-0 against Jersey on Friday night, March 28th. So you can go, if you want to get into that one game and then think about more going forward, winnipegjets.com/WST. Jump on those. Should be a great one. And I can tell you that Friday night, we haven't had a ton of Fridays. That Friday crowd going into the break for the Islander game was a heck of a lot of fun. Rob, listen, I know that while the players are enjoying some well-earned time off, you and your team are working hard. Once again, just to let people know how they can get in touch with you guys online or by the phone or popping in to talk about coming on board for memberships next year and counting themselves in for playoffs.
Yeah, winnipegjets.com/deposit. You go there, you can put your deposit down. If you want to talk more, there's information. You can just put your name and your email, your phone number in. We'll get back to you very quickly. Happy to have those conversations, answer all of your questions. Again, winnipegjets.com/deposit.
Rob, thanks so much, and best of luck going forward. Hopefully we can keep this positive momentum going and have a long playoff run and an even healthier organization going into the next season. Appreciate your time. All the best.
Thank you very much. Go Jets.
All right. Thanks for Rob for jumping on that. And of course, yeah, just head on over to the Jets website or give him a holler if you want to jump on board and take advantage of that playoff offer. And hopefully we can keep this positive momentum going, much like what's been happening on the ice. Speaking of that ice, Murat is just about to jump on with us, talk about the Jets at the break, as well as Canada-Sweden tonight. Do want to thank Princess Auto for their amazing support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. John Hodge jumping on a little later on. We'll talk some CFL free agency, counting down the days to get back to Princess Auto Stadium to cheer on the Bombers for what's another great season. And, of course, the Grey Cup hosted at Princess Auto Stadium this year, as it's our turn to welcome the nation here to the Peg for the big game. Princess Auto, synonymous with Winnipeg, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered right here in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast, but with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, Brandon for our friends in Westman, and find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is over at Princess Auto. You can also check out everything they've got going on, the latest deals, inventory coming in, and get some new ideas for projects for the spring and summer by perusing and shopping online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Shout out to our friends as well at Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door specialists in town since 1946. Listen, if your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter's doing a number on it this season, they have you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, wood fencing, also the leaders in temporary fencing for commercial reasons. And hey, if it's time to replace your garage door, talk to Wallace & Wallace. They've got the largest selection of overhead garage doors in town, which means one perfectly to match your home and add value to it at the same time. 452-2700 is the number. Their team would love to come down and arrange a time to give you a free estimate. You can also visit them online, wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Keniston. As we bring in Murat, it is cold outside. We're starting to think playoffs and spring. If you need to up your menswear game now, guys, get on down now to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street, the leaders in custom men's clothing, with custom suits starting at just $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles. A great discount for wedding parties as you get ready for wedding season. If the guys in the wedding party need their suits for the big day, and also a free shirt and tie for any 2025 grad with the purchase of a suit. It's all waiting for you at F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online or book an appointment to come in for a fitting at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, let's get Murat in here and welcome him to the program. How are you enjoying a few days off the Jets beat?
You know, I've been writing every day and putting up stories every day, but I'm going for long walks, enjoying some vitamin D. I've been having a real cozy time of it, and I gotta say, I'm fired up for Four Nations too. I love that kit. I love that Team Canada jersey you got on as well.
Yeah, well, it's going to be real neat. We were playing Josh Morrissey. I don't know if you heard it. He jumped on, I guess, from Montreal with Elliot and Bukauskas on 32 Thoughts. And you can tell just how exciting this is for him. And, you know, what an honor it is. Not only, I mean, there's one thing for an honor to play for your country, and Josh has done that before. But this is a little different. And for an entire generation of these players, not unique to Canada, there really hasn't been anything like this. I mean, I know there was the World Cup in 2016. That was still a long time ago. And yet the Canadian team, the American team weren't true best on best squads because so many talented young players were on Team North America. I mean, you really have to go back to Sochi. And let's face it, with the exception of Marchand, Crosby, and now Drew Doughty, who's been added last minute, we are looking at the first opportunity for this entire new generation to test themselves against their biggest rivals. Certainly that'll be Saturday when Canada plays the United States.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot too. Like, there is a lost generation. There's a group of players, some best on best players who will never have had this opportunity, or maybe they were just like at the wrong age level. And I haven't read the piece yet, but I saw the Athletic headline about that lost generation. I think the lead talked about, maybe it was Tyler Seguin who got hurt in, I don't know if it was 2014 or 18 or what, and missed an opportunity to play for Team Canada. And there's so many different stories like that where there are players who would have had that opportunity that just didn't, that absolutely just didn't. And maybe that's what makes it, in some ways, there's so many layers from which it's special. But I think about Josh Morrissey, and I talked to him a couple weeks ago now about it. And, we were talking about Four Nations, but then just kind of naturally he brought up the Olympics and the idea that this could be a pickup note to that. This could be a chance to prove yourself at the highest best on best level. Not only do we get to see Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid on the same team for the first time ever with McDavid, but there's a lot of different storylines where people are anticipating we can get best on best back. And if that's, the Olympics being around the corner is the gold standard of that, then there's a lot of people using this and feeling the momentum of this as the harbinger of good things to come. And Morrissey would be at the front of that list, trying to become an Olympian next year as well. Feel for Mark Scheifele, who got close, but I guess, we'll just have to appreciate the nod that they gave him to sort of stand by.
He got jobbed, Murat. He should be on this team.
Well, that's one, I will not win this conversation in a Winnipeg market, Huss. But in December, at the first week of December, you have a guy who's playing through an upper body injury. He's not taking faceoffs. He's off to a good offensive start, to be clear. But the season before, he didn't hit 30 goals. He has some two-way reputation that I think this season has gone a long way towards quelling. It's wild to look at now, the goal totals. What is he, tied for second or third in the NHL?
Yeah.
Perhaps first since the teams were announced. We will look back and it will have looked insane that Canada left him off the team. And that perception will be 100% fair. And I'm not going to fire up the Team Canada effed up headline, because you go back to the time that they made their decision. And I think that it was a little bit more sensible then than it might look today.
Oh, listen, I mean, he definitely increased his argument post December 2nd or whatever the day that it was. Still, I mean, this team had a 15-1 start. He was a huge part of that. The power play was going on. I mean, listen, you make valid points. And here's the thing. We're talking about one team for this entire country that produces some of the best hockey players in the world. The one thing I'll say, though, and maybe this has been a blessing in disguise for the Jets, because, I mean, if you want to just talk about what Mark Scheifele did in games against Don Sweeney's Boston Bruins, 4 goals, the Jets routed them 14-3 in 6 periods. I think there's no, listen, I really hope that this season is a springboard for Mark being on that Olympic team. Because certainly if you were going to be on one of the two teams, the Olympics is what you want to be a part of. I mean, that is truly the pinnacle. But again, 1 year older, I mean, you don't know whether that chance is going to be there. And, I think most people would say he certainly put himself into the mix. And as a guy that, if he was out there, I don't think anyone would have a question about him being on it. But some time away, a little extra motivation. There's not one thing that Mark Scheifele could do more to help his cause for the Olympic Games and to be on Canada's team next year than continue to lead a team to first place in the division in the West, potentially a President's Trophy, and then have a nice long playoff run. So even if people haven't been paying attention to the Jets this year, they'll have no choice but to do it later on in the Stanley Cup playoffs if they can, win some rounds and be there as we're talking about the best of the best in the NHL playing for a cup.
1,000%. He has done so much for his stock. And there are these things called the Stanley Cup playoffs that people can't help but pay attention to. Remember what Mark Scheifele was thought of throughout the league after 2018 when he scored almost a goal per game through those 3 series on the route to the Western Conference final. Like, there was a sense that this guy was hitting the stratosphere. This was statue talk from Paul Maurice. This was what was warranting all of that. And like, I can look at that fourth line and see, is it Cirelli and then Travis Konechny's on the right wing of that? I'm like, okay, Mark Scheifele can play in that group, and you would think of it as an upgrade in a lot of ways. But also, I'm thinking to myself that this is a player who probably is capable of even more than what we've seen from him, because you see what he does to Boston. You see what he does to Florida. You see what he did in the Stanley Cup playoffs on the Western Conference final trip. You see what happens to the Jets when he's been injured or suspended or other things during the playoffs. This is a guy who has been so close to it so many times, especially I'm thinking of the playoffs now, and then something happens. He's hurt. Matthew Tkachuk, he's suspended. Jake Evans, he's hurt. Like, all these different things. And Winnipeg quickly learns how much they need him when he's hurt in those situations. He gets so close to this, to be on deck, basically the next guy up. Not basically being the next guy up. This is a unique, like, in the world of professional sports, and they all have their unique stories. What Mark Scheifele has been, like, always the bridesmaid, so to speak. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but like, there is something unique going on in his career. And I saw some Jets fans sort of take to Twitter yesterday and say, hey, if there's one thing we get out of this, and it's a fired up Mark Scheifele and they can't help but ignore him, then the best thing will have happened for everybody. And if you're a selfish Winnipeg Jets fan and you think of some of the second halves he's had coming out of the All-Star break 2 years ago, the number of goals he scored, I don't know. There's something about a hungry Mark Scheifele that's out to say frick you to the doubters that is just a little bit more special to me. So I hope we see it.
Listen, the freak you mode has been engaged for a while, and hopefully it can continue, because it has been a huge difference in what this team has done so far this year and what they could be capable of. A couple of other big-time Winnipeg Jets are beginning competing wearing the Stars and Stripes of the United States. It's so funny, Murat, when you think about those two players, maybe compared to everybody else on that team. I mean, Kyle Connor was famously left off the World Junior team, and then all he did was go out, probably was robbed of the Hobey Baker award in his year at Michigan, and then has turned into one of the best goal scorers in the league. And I mean, the story of Connor Hellebuck's winding road to becoming the best goaltender in the National Hockey League is one of the great and most unique stories in all of hockey. And those two guys, after being overlooked by Team USA, particularly Connor, and then, Hellebuck just wasn't even on the radar for a long time, playing on a team where just about everybody else was part of the U.S. National Development Program. And, the two Jets guys, to me, sort of stand out from the others with the path that they've taken for the honor of representing their country.
It's what I think of when you say that is, yes, they are American and obviously as proud as they can be to be American, but isn't that so friggin' Winnipeg?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that make it seem like they fit in our city because they can relate to a certain angle? Like, the idea of being overlooked, and then to go from the Odessa Jackalopes to the universally accepted number one goaltender for the Americans and likely on the planet for Connor Hellebuck, for Kyle Connor to be picked late, in the late, 18th in 2015?
Yeah, he was 17 after Boston
17.
passed on him 3 straight picks.
I mean, Boston is the villain of so many of these stories, huh? For Scheifele and now also for Kyle Connor's draft pick. Anyway, like, it just makes me think that that thing that we like to hold on to in our city of like hold the phone. You know, we might be soft spoken about certain things, and you know, Kyle Connor doesn't generate a lot of his own hype in terms of his media presence, right? Like he's not one of those guys.
Far from it.
He keeps to himself. I remember talking to his close friend Zach Werenski last year, and he said he was skating with Kyle Connor every day the summer before, and it was like partway through that he found out offhand that Connor got engaged. Like a childhood friend had to find out kind of by accident, even though he was seeing him every day. Like Kyle Connor does not generate his own hype with his words. He does it with his goal scoring ability. It's annoying that he's going to be a top line player for that team because we all know what he can do, especially from, I guess, the top of the circle is in, and he's going to have great players feeding him. He's going to have lots of opportunities to get scoring chances. And then Connor Hellebuyck to me just stands out for so many reasons. Obviously, his greatness in Winnipeg and what we've seen. I hold him as the best goaltender of his generation, should get Hart Trophy votes. But he also now becomes a symbol to me of what Team Canada does not have. And that's that clear cut. You know, I was raised on Luongo and Brodeur, and like you could go 6 deep. Like, I don't know, Curtis Joseph, who probably didn't play a lot of Olympic game. Maybe he got into 1 or something like that, would have been one of the best goaltenders in the world in those years, just to pick one example. And I miss that feeling of security. Jordan Binnington does not give that to me. Makes me a little bit nervous, even if he, you know, it makes me a little bit nervous to have Binner as your guy. So Hellebuyck sort of has become a symbol of what we're missing to me. So I'm having a harder time enjoying when he wears that jersey.
You know, one thing, I was on in Calgary this morning on one of the shows, and they asked me, we got talking about the Jets and got talking about Hellebuyck, and, you know, Patrick Dumas asked me an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about it, but I've been thinking about a lot of it since we had this chat. Is Connor Hellebuyck, does he have as much pressure on his shoulders than maybe anybody in this tournament? And posed from the direction that everyone knows that he's having again another all-world season. He's running away with the Vezina Trophy. But this is going to be his 3rd. And if you look at, and again, I say this is an unfair criticism because of the way the Jets played in front of him, but a lot of people that just sort of casually watching with the playoffs, oh, Hellebuyck had a terrible playoffs. This is such a short tournament. There is a lot of pressure. There's so much on the line. And again, you know, what happens right now in the next 2 weeks, none of it's going to matter if you can go and win a Stanley Cup or something like that. But considering where the Jets have been these last couple seasons and Hellebuyck in the postseason, like, what do you make of like what's on his shoulders? Not to mention being the starting goaltender of the team that is hosting the final and doing it over a very, very impressive goaltending room for Team USA.
Yeah, I get that angle. That's for sure. Like, to come out of those playoffs, and there is this narrative that perhaps he is not a big game goalie, or like he's been outplayed. Like, that's one that honestly frustrates me quite a lot.
Me too.
Like, if you're out there saying, well, his save percentage was this, or he gave up that many goals or whatever, how many times have you gone back and watched the shift leading up to that goal? How many times? Like, what's your video history on that? How much time have you put into that? Have you counted the deflections? Have you looked at the double bounces? Have you counted the seam passes? Have you looked at the space that Colorado generated with its cutbacks and its speed? Like, how much time have you put into your assessment that Connor Hellebuyck was the problem during that series? And if you have, then I'd like to see the deep dive on it. Like, if you put in that work, I want to see the counter argument. But I have put in that time, and I support Connor Hellebuyck's view. Like, I can find one goal. It was a power play goal where it looks like he's trying to do too much. I can find one that I put on the goalie 100%. And it was in Denver. Like, I can see the one that's happening. He's trying to over commit to taking away a pass. But he was under siege. And then the idea, now we've got this revisionist history that somehow... So I'm just frustrated with different narratives now. I remember the conversation I had with Kevin Cheveldayoff a few weeks ago, and he was saying, well, heading into the 2021 expansion draft with Seattle, Logan Stanley had just scored these 2 big playoff goals, and there were all these reasons to believe that he was on his way up. And I remember at the time casting doubt on that. And at the time, everybody talking about the Jets sweep over Edmonton as if that had been an elite defensive performance. And it was a solid defensive performance, but you know who stole that series outright in a lot of ways was Connor Hellebuck. But because the timing of that just doesn't fit into the overall narrative, it is as if Connor Hellebuck hasn't had playoff success to some people. And when you sweep a team, it's harder to say, hey, that was the goalie. Like, where's the Game 7 overtime save or what have you? And yet, yeah.
3 of the games are OT. 1 was triple overtime. And the fact of the matter is that is forgotten by everybody because there was no fans. And
I should have empathy.
And part of it as well was the fact that, I mean, listen, we don't need to relitigate the Montreal series, but you know, you have that disastrous first game and then the 4-game suspension of Mark Scheifele, and it seemed like the team fell apart. Like I see Tikona Paula saying, where was this comment just based on what we were just saying? Well, Helly still has to break that narrative. Listen, teams win championships, and like you can put the greatest player on a team that is falling apart and they're not going to win. Now, players can be the difference maker in great teams, but you're not going to see a lot of Stanley Cup champions that played brutally through 2 months and just had their goalie winning every game for them. Anyways, I mean, this is just something around this tournament from a USA perspective when it comes to our guys. Like, I think Kyle Connor has the opportunity to really show everybody that he is a kind of an overlooked superstar in this league. But for Connor Hellebuck, if he just goes and does his job like he's been doing for the Winnipeg Jets, I hate to say it, that is going to be a very, very tough team to beat in that final game. And hopefully Canada is in it. I do expect USA to be there as well. Murat, just turning back to the Jets for a minute. You know, this is sort of a time to take a bit of a breather. Certainly it is for the players. I mean, what can you say about this team going into the break? 8 in a row without Adam Lowry. And I think that we often had complimented the depth of this club in the past. We're seeing it even more right now. And listen, I still think Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to do everything he can to, you know, give his team the best chance to win come playoff time. But I have to admit, it does give you a little bit of pause about, you know, not wanting to change or break up too much right now because everyone's had a piece of these wins.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Alex Iafallo could be a fun example of that, right? Like 4th line all season, just about. And then the way that he uses his body position to set up, like on the way to just an incredible goal. He scored a highlight reel goal recently, and he's assisted a highlight reel goal recently. And you're like, that's their 4th line guy. And I had a lot of people in my DMs during that last week or what have you saying, you know what, I should apologize to Alex Iafallo. I didn't know. Is that a Shaq meme or something like that? I didn't know your game or something. Yeah. Anyway,
I wasn't familiar with your game.
That I was sent that a couple of times, and I really got a kick out of that. And that's a fact about the Winnipeg Jets. I think now there's some developments this year that probably should give Jets fans even more confidence. But heading into this season, the clear strength of the Winnipeg Jets was their depth. Was the idea that Adam Lowry's line was going to be better at that job than just about any line in the league, and that the Jets' 4th line was going to be as good or better than any line in the league. There were some questions about Connor Scheifele Vilardi heading into the year. Could that line be as good as other elite top lines? And they hadn't been last year for various factors. The thing you could count on was Winnipeg's depth. And that is a tremendous credit for Kevin Cheveldayoff, that Niederreiter acquisition, that Vladislav Nemestikov acquisition, Alex Iafallo being part of that Pierre Dubois deal with Vilardi coming and Rasmus Kupari as well. Like, there were a lot of things done to give Winnipeg's depth an advantage over other NHL teams. And then to have that turn into what Connor Scheifele and Vilardi have done this year, such that the top-end talent is matching the top-end talent of not just the average opponent, but the great ones as well, that's a special moment for this franchise. And it's one that, like, we sort of had to see to believe, or at least I had to see to believe, because that line struggled last year. And you can put that to they were just getting to know each other. You can put that to Velarde's injury. You can put that to Connor's injury and all that sort of stuff. But they didn't do last year what they've done this year. And they're finding it and they're seeing it. The chemistry is clearly there. Velarde's health has been a key one. Kyle Connor, I mean, we were just talking about him a moment ago, but he is sort of like your favorite player's favorite player. Like I've talked to other Jets players about, hey, if you could steal a skill from somebody, or if there's like something that you've noticed a player doing that you just wish you could do, what would it be? And like I'm going to say 4 out of 5 of them point to Kyle Connor and like various different steps that he has on the ice, or the way that he accelerates out of a cutback, and these little subtle things he does to give himself some space. And to have him go on to that success sort of vindicates so many people's belief in this player. We talk a lot about Mark Scheifele's Yzerman-esque moment in his upgraded two-way play this year. I think Kyle Connor's made a bigger step, and I'm glad to have written on that because I think that's an important thing to acknowledge. It's not all been perfect, but it's been so good. And when you add that to depth that was already excellent, a Hellebuck that was already as good as anybody in the world, the defense has come around, especially with Sandberg's health. There are so many things to like, and they have cap space. So they've given themselves the opportunity to talk about adding even more.
Just quickly, and I kind of wanted to focus in on the season up until now, Four Nations today. Next week, we can sort of look ahead to March 7th, the trade deadline, the rest of the season, and obviously what's happening at the tournament. But I know you got a piece on the Jets' top 10 trade assets. Just give a little bit of a plug for what people have waiting for them over at theathletic.com.
Yeah, we've been doing a bunch of trade targets. I have 3 trade target pieces over the last week or so. But what's it going to cost? And what does Winnipeg normally do at this time of year? So a little bit of history. You can get into how often that they trade first-round picks, how rarely they trade their top prospect or a top young player from their team, and sort of start to see what types of assets Cheveldayoff might move with. So from, a good young roster player like Cole Perfetti, who teams will ask about, but who they won't move, all the way to those, second-round picks and beyond. We sort of do a little bit of discussion about the likelihood, the history, what those players or assets might be worth. And so that's 10 of them. That's worth diving into. And then there's a bonus 11th one, which is about Ville Heinola, which I'm sure that fans and unfans of his will be interested in.
Murat, you enjoy the next few days and enjoy this game tonight. Thanks so much for doing this, and hopefully we can catch up next week when I will be in Boston at the Four Nations. It should be a lot of fun, and be pulling for the red and white and Josh Morrissey tonight.
Love that for you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. There's Murat Atesh right now in The Athletic. There's actually some great Four Nations stuff, some really cool stuff from Michael Russo on the Team USA, with some notes on Connor Hellebuck. And Murat's got the ranking the Jets' top 10 trade assets with the caveat which ones could be in play. All right, why not question of the day for not Autocorp but Waverly and McGillivray is very simply this. Who will win the Four Nations face-off? And great opportunity. Remis has been killing it with the polls. To get into our fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot to buy and sell Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. When you go to Fans First, there are no added fees. The price you see for the tickets you're looking at is what you will pay. And I can tell you as a season ticket holder that on occasion has an extra pair of seats. The only place I go to sell my seats is Fans First. Best customer service, paid immediately the first business day after the game, and they'll even help you out if you've priced them too high or too low. They'll let you know that they're sort of off kilter. So fansfirst.ca, fan feedback, and Remis, no surprise, Canada is getting most of the support, 62%. I mean, going into this tourney, we'd often thought that it was the Americans that probably should be the favorite. Goaltending, a big advantage for Team USA. But as we've gotten closer to the tournament, both the Coolbet, we've seen the Canada number drop, and a lot of confidence that the Canadian men can do the job in Montreal and Boston.
Yeah, I kind of, sometimes I ask, like, are the Jets going to win? I just expect everyone to say yes, so I kind of use it as a confidence meter. I think 61's kind of low for this, although when you look at the odds, maybe it is them and the U.S. neck and neck, so I guess people are, I don't know, we'll see how Team Canada looks tonight against Sweden. I think they've got a bigger than 3% chance. I think they've got a really good team. Looking at it, we're kind of counting them out. Finland, they've had a lot of injuries on defense. I think they're going to be tough, but they seem to always surprise. So, again, it's exciting. People are definitely, I think, fired up now that it's here and there's nothing else on.
Yeah, you can continue to vote, but as of right now, our fan feedback on this question for Fans First is, who will win the Four Nations face-off? Canada is at 61%, USA 35%, only 3% liking the Swedes, and 1% liking the Finns. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today over at fansfirst.ca. All right, let's break from the pucks for a minute and get into some football talk. CFL Free Agency continues, and John Hodge of 3 Down Nation joins us now. John, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing well, Huss. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm slowly getting over the disappointment of the Super Bowl. And luckily, we've got a pretty exciting game tonight. I mean, we've missed this generation playing together at Best on Best. And Canada-Sweden tonight should be a heck of a lot of fun. And obviously, it's been a lot of fun talking about this Winnipeg Jets team all season long, which I think to Winnipeg fans has been very nice to get over another tough loss in the Grey Cup. But like the Grey Cup, last season is behind us. We're into this off season, and it's been a pretty wild couple weeks around the Canadian Football League. Let me ask you this. What do you make of the Bombers' situation as we sit here today after the signings that we anticipated would be announced with the holes on their roster? How much work does Kyle Walters and his staff still have to do?
I think they got, here's the analogy I would use. We've all had Manitoba winters, right? We're going through a pretty miserable stretch right now. And each year, each tough winter, takes a little bit out of your car, right? And the past few off seasons, Winnipeg has by and large avoided a lot of the damage, right? They've had this kind of Cadillac of a team. And yeah, they lost Jamarcus Hardrick last year, but they kind of keep everybody back. And we've also seen it be a very commonly said thing that, this guy took less to sign back, or players saying, yeah, I could have got more money elsewhere, but I stayed here. That refrain seems to have stopped. It's not coming out from the players themselves. It's not coming out from independent reporting. And I also think that this car is the most dinged up it's been in a while. Now, do I think the Bombers are still a good team? Yeah, I'm not taking that away from them. But when you lose arguably the best receiver in the league, like Kenny Lawler is a true one of one as far as I'm concerned. He is the most dangerous offensive weapon in the league. When you lose arguably the most dynamic Canadian player in the league in Tyrell Ford, a true one of one. There are no other Canadian defensive playmakers like him in the CFL. You can't replace those guys. When you lose a Liam Dobson, right, former 3rd overall draft pick, they developed him for a couple of years. He goes, he starts, he's named All West Division. He's 26 years old, and they lose him, right, to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You can't replace that. Like, those guys generally don't make it to free agency before they turn 30 because teams don't lose them. So I think there are some signings to be excited about. I think there are some positives to talk about, but I think the Bombers got more banged up this offseason in free agency than we've seen in a long time. And I think that certainly means there is work to be done here for Winnipeg's front office, led, of course, by GM Kyle Walters.
Let's focus in on the O-line. How did they replace Dobson? What's the likelihood that they bring in an American? And might that be important for a group that loses Dobson, who was an all-star last year? But also, I think, John, we saw, shall we say, some erosion of the excellence that had been a mainstay for the Bombers through this sort of owning the West era.
Yeah, I think, four out of five spots, we'll start with that, are back along the offensive line. Obviously, Stanley Bryant is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's also 38, turning 39, I believe, in May. Chris Kolinkowski, solid at center. I thought was incredible in 2023. Thought he was good in 2024. Patrick Neufeld had a really rough start to the season, was battling injury all through training camp. I believe it was a knee. He eventually missed a few games, sat down, and then once he came back was excellent. So he kind of found it. But he is also, again, 35 years old, I believe. And then Eric Lofton at right tackle, I thought improved dramatically as the season went on. Started out rough. By the end of the year, him and Patty, I think we're holding that side of the offensive line down, especially in the playoffs. I don't think that's talked about enough. Everybody talks about the collapse, rightfully so, and the terrible ending, and Zach Larson, the finger of the Grey Cup. Something that I thought not enough people gave the Bombers credit for during their playoff run is that the offensive line against the very good Saskatchewan front was incredible in the West Final. And then the offensive line was very good in the Grey Cup. There was a lot that went wrong in that game, but I thought the O-line showed out well. So I'm sure Winnipeg is hoping to keep some of that success, some of the momentum going. Kendall Randolph, the American, played at the University of Alabama, predominantly as a blocking tight end, had some spot starts last year at left tackle when Stanley Bryant was out, was awful. The first game that he was in for Stanley Bryant, that was the game where Stanley Bryant collapsed on the field. I think he gave up 3 sacks in that game. After that, once he had some time to actually practice in that spot, looked okay. And he also played some guard as well. If I had to guess, I would suggest that he's probably the guy who is penciled in to start at left guard right now. But let's not forget that Tuieli has been in or around this team since 2019, I believe it was, when he was a 4th-round pick out of the University of Hawaii. Has never been a consistent starter, but has started games at guard. Center is more his natural position. And then Gabe Wallace, who didn't start last year, who's 2nd-round pick out of Buffalo in 2024, but did play a lot of tight end, had some spot duty at guard. I remember speaking to Chris Kolinkowski the game where he did end up playing some next to Gabe Wallace, and he ranted and raved about how good Gabe Wallace was before he suffered a knee injury in that game and was eventually knocked out. So I don't think the Bombers need to press the panic button along the offensive line. I will also say, Huss, by the way, the 2025 CFL draft, not particularly deep along the offensive line, according to the people I've spoken to. So I do think that this team has more work to be done. There are some free agents still out there. Isaiah Cage, who's very good left tackle for the Toronto Argonauts, still available. Kent Perkins started a bunch of games for BC last year. There's also a guy like Suk Chung, former 1st-round pick, who was in Winnipeg for a long time out there. But I don't think that Winnipeg's offensive line is going to get better in 2025 from where it was in 2024. Their ceiling might simply be as good as it was maybe towards the end of 2024.
What about the receiving core? And you know, it's funny. I asked Hammer about this yesterday, and I will pose this in comparison, not to the Bombers' opening day lineup last year, but what they were through most of the season. And that was a team that was without Dalton Schoen. Kenny Lawler, as you mentioned, is gone. That's a big loss. Drew Olatarski was released. They're moving on there. Ontario Wilson signed with the Jets. No, there could be the potential he comes back at some point, but you can't guarantee it. Have they done enough to fill those positions with the receivers and with the guys they had and the reemergence of Dalton Schoen? Might they actually be deeper right now than they were at the end of last season?
I think they're certainly deeper than they were at the end of last season when you look at the injuries that were had. I think that one of the challenges that Winnipeg had, and this is maybe something that wasn't talked about enough, everybody raving, of course, about the emergence of Ontario Wilson, but this team rotated a ton of guys, right, in that receiving core, whether it was Carrick Wheatfall, whether it was Myron Mitchell, Josh Johnson, who never did anything. Cody Case. There was a time where people were excited about Cody Case. None of those guys did anything, and I think that cost this team down the line when they were starting late in the year with at least one receiver who was getting on average 1 target a game. And it's not super uncommon in the CFL to have a guy getting 1 target a game, but he's usually your token Canadian who's playing field side wideout. When you've got a big-bodied American slot back or an American slot back spot available, that is a spot where somebody should be getting a healthy amount of looks, and that simply wasn't happening in Bomberland in 2024. So I like the depth. I like some of these signings. I would call these value signings. We're talking, of course, about Jareth Stearns, formerly the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Reggie White Jr., formerly of the Montreal Alouettes. White Jr. looked to be a rising star in 2022 when he destroyed his knee, ended up costing him all of 2023. I believe it was one of those where it was ACL, MCL, PCL, maybe even the meniscus as well, like almost a career-ending knee injury. He eventually got back onto the field in 2024. I know that his camp is optimistic that he'll be able to refine that line that he had in 2022. Jareth Stearns is a guy who I think is super exciting. I mean, he had one of the best seasons. This is not an exaggeration. It's going to sound like hyperbole, but it's not. He had one of the best seasons in the history of collegiate football in his final year at Western Kentucky. He put up 1,900 receiving yards. And prior to that, at his old school, he was also extremely productive. And I appreciate that Western Kentucky isn't Alabama or Clemson or Ole Miss, but production is production. And in 2 years, as a raw rookie in a very crowded receiving room in Saskatchewan, they've got a lot of great receivers in Riderville, he still put up almost 1,000 yards over 2 years. So he's somebody who he's not tremendously long, not super explosive of an athlete, and not very tall, but great on second down, really crafty route runner, really great hands. I think that Zach Collaros and him could develop some quick chemistry. And then Dylan Mitchell, of course, is the guy who I think the Bombers expect to step into that field side wideout role or field side slot back role that Kenny Lawler is kind of the number one guy was filling. And I have spoken to some people who are questioning how Dylan Mitchell might fit into this locker room. We all know the FIFO slang term that the Bombers have, their motto, where you're supposed to fit in or blank out. And if Dylan Mitchell's able to do that, I mean, from everyone I've talked to, his talent is off the charts. This is a guy who I don't even think going 100% all the time was a star at the University of Oregon, which is just about as good as it gets in the college football world. That being said, I do think there were some signs of immaturity at times in Edmonton. So if he's able to get it right, he might actually be not a full replacement for Kenny Lawler, but like a very adequate replacement. It just depends on how he meshes. Because I have spoken to people who think this guy in Winnipeg is going to turn it on. I've also talked to some people who think this guy's going to get cut by week 4 because he's just not going to be a culture fit in Winnipeg. So that's an interesting thing to watch for sure.
Streveler's back and the Bombers signed Shea Paterson. What do you make of the quarterback depth? And if this is Zach Collaros' final season, is next year's starter on the roster right now?
I'll answer the second question first. I don't think so. I have not seen enough personally from Chris Streveler, from Shea Paterson, from Jake Dolegala, from Terry Wilson to go, wow, this is somebody who could be the guy for a CFL franchise long term. That's not to say none of them are good quarterbacks. I think Shea Paterson showed some flashes. Chris Streveler is obviously an incredible athlete, a ton of fun to watch. There's a reason he's a fan favorite. And Terry Wilson, we don't have enough of a sample size to really have a strong opinion on what he can or can't do. I will say, though, if you're the Blue Bombers and you think that Terry Wilson is ready to do incredible things in 2025, I don't know why you're signing Shea Paterson in free agency. I don't know why you're bringing back Chris Streveler. That, to me, is a bit of a red flag. That being said, we haven't asked the Bombers about Terry Wilson in a while. I'm excited to see what that depth chart looks like come training camp and how the reps are allocated. I would also assume the club's going to be bringing in at least 1 or 2 rookies. Darren Granger will not be that guy. He's retired. But I assume that there's somebody on this team's neg list who will get signed and come to camp to compete. Now, as for what the depth chart will look like, I think Chris Streveler obviously has a good line to get that number 2 job. He's the most seasoned guy, and he obviously is excellent at some of the specific packages where he can be deployed. Not that the Bombers did that a ton in 2024, but with a new offensive coordinator in Jason Hogan, that could be more of a possibility come 2025. The third spot is going to be the interesting one. The guy with the most starts, I believe, is actually Jake Dolegala, and he did have some tenure with Winnipeg last year. Shea Paterson, a little bit more of a better athlete, started 7 games for the Riders last year, only went 2-4-1 in those games. Though it should be noted, fun fact, he beat the Bombers as a starter last year. Trevor Harris did not do that. Trevor Harris went 0-3. So interesting that Paterson was the only one to knock off the Bombers in that Prairie rivalry in 2024. But this quarterback room, I like the depth. It's a little bit like the receiving room. I like the depth of it. I'm just not sure it has the type of top-end talent we've become accustomed to seeing in Winnipeg. That's not taking anything away from Zach Collaros. He threw for a ton of yards last year, a little more interceptions than we're used to, a little bit of fewer touchdowns. But I also think that was partly to do with the injuries that we talked about in the receiver room, never really having Kenny Lawler and Dalton Schoen at the same time, right? So we'll see. It's an interesting receiver or quarterback room. I applaud the Bombers for casting a wide net. I'm excited, though, to see what happens in training camp because there's a lot to be learned about this group.
John, I know you and the 3-Down team are all over it right now at 3-Down Nation as new signings come in. Just quickly on the way out, I mean, where do you think Kyle Walters is spending most of his time? Like, is there a hole or two on the team that still could use some help at free agency? And just thoughts on the remaining top players available.
Well, I mean, there's Alexander Hollins sitting out there. There's Brandon Dandridge, very experienced, very talented cornerback from formerly of the Ottawa Redblacks, was released not long before free agency. You know, I think Dandridge is a guy that could help this team. Richard Leonard has experience at halfback and corner if they wanted to fill Tyrell Ford's spot with someone with more experience. But I think they also like Jamal Parker there, who missed all of 2024 due to injury. I think the linebacking core is more or less set and good to go. This club also, I think if it's Michael Griffin at safety, I think that's an upgrade over Brandon Alexander. Josh Haggerty, I think, is a nice Canadian depth add there. And let's remember, of course, that Jordan Younger loves to drop a million guys back into coverage on second down. So regardless of who's starting at safety, it's easy to develop, I think, a bunch of defensive backs, American, Canadian, whatever, because of how much they actually see the field, even if they're not necessarily starting. So if I was Kyle Walters, I would be looking to, this is not a sexy answer, admittedly, that fullback body type. Bailey Feltmate elected to retire. He told me that he will be coaching at Dartmouth this upcoming year, and while he studies nursing, and decided to step away from the game. So I think that there's a hole there for kind of an H-back type body for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, specifically a Canadian player, but that might be something they're best served looking for come the draft.
John, great stuff as always, folks. Head over to 3-Down Nation for more on the Bombers and the entire free agent frenzy in the Canadian Football League. Thanks for doing this, pal.
Thanks for having me, Huss. Anytime.
Appreciate it. You can also give John a follow on X at John D. Hodge. All right, Moose are in action. Big homestand. Game tonight. Going to talk to Dan Fink in just a moment. But a great time before we maybe crack a couple for the game tonight. To give a big thanks to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right. Of course, game tonight, Canada, Sweden, Boston Pizza, the place to be in your neighborhood. If you're looking for a great spot to get together with the game on all the screens, with the sound on, enjoying ice cold schooners, world famous wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. The puck drops at 7 p.m. Get down to your local BP. And hey, if you are staying at home, I know it is freezing outside, bring Boston Pizza to you by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And right off the start of the show, I've been getting compliments on my Josh Morrissey Canada jersey. You want to pick that up at Royal Sports. And it just came in a few days ago. I was there on the weekend. Great selection of Canada jerseys. You might not be able to get it done up in a Morrissey right today, but you can certainly get it in time for the game. The jerseys for all four teams are absolutely phenomenal. Royal Sports is your Four Nations merchandise headquarters, so get on down there before game time and cop it. And of course, Saturday, Saturday night, Canada, USA. You will definitely wanting to be representing the home team, that game in Montreal on Saturday, and Royal Sports has it. While you're there, they have such an amazing selection of these exclusive Winnipeg Jets hats they did with New Era that you will not find anywhere else. Go in and check out those, and lots of new Bomber gear actually coming in with New Era just in time to get new players signed and get ready for the season that is just around the corner. Royal Sports, your number one sports superstore in town, family owned for 50 years in the Peg, 750 Pembina Highway. And make sure to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, let's check in with the Moose. Coming off an offensive explosion on the weekend. They're taking on the Texas Stars, and Dan Fink joins us now. Fink, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Not too much going on. Just getting ready for another big set of games here as we really get into the meat of the second half. Very busy February and March for the Moose, so that doesn't leave a whole lot of time for anything else.
Yeah, well, I mean, the timing maybe would be great if they had. But hey, listen, we've got phones. I know they'll have the game on tonight in the concourse. But while Canada plays, we have a. I mean, is it safe to say this is sort of like last year territory right now, where the Moose are sort of feeling like they're playing playoff games every night if they want to have a chance to barge their way back into the mix?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of got to be the mentality. Actually, I spoke with Janssen-Fjällby about that yesterday, and as a member of that team last season that fought its way back into the mix, asked about what was it that allowed them to make those moves and charge up the standings, and what would it take this time around? And he plainly stated desperation. We need to play like a desperate team every single night, and I don't know that the Moose have been able to get to that level of desperation on a consistent basis over the last little bit, so that's going to be the focus coming up here, is kind of hitting that stride and hitting that push. And we saw it against Iowa in the second game. But the Moose need to have more of those games and less of the ones that they had the day prior.
Just before we get into tonight, tell us about the weekend. I was in the car listening to you, and they had 7 goals after 40 minutes. And this is a team that has at times been very offensively challenged so far this year. Hopefully they can keep that momentum rolling into tonight against Texas.
It was a bit of a cleansing afternoon for the team. Again, talking to some of the players, I mean, this is a team that has scratched and clawed and fought its way for every single goal it has scored this season. That puck has just not gone over the line. Huss, I don't know if I've seen any season where the puck has been on the goal line and not gone in as many times as it has this season for the Moose. It is just collectively has been a snake-bitten team at times this season. And when they're able to pump 7 goals to the back of the net, you could sense the relief around the room once we got back to practice on Tuesdays. So hopefully that kind of gets the sticks not being gripped so tight to maybe toss some 800-pound gorillas off some guys' backs. I mean, for Janssen-Fjällby to go a while without scoring a goal and then scores 2 in about 2 minutes, that's big for the Moose. I mean, they need some of those guys to score goals. Of course, Parker Ford is scoring as well as anybody in the AHL right now, but they need the rest of the team to get rolling with that. And you saw guys like Brad Lambert have 3 primary assists and look consistently dangerous as the Moose shift him out onto the wing hero for a few games. Maybe see if they can get him not focusing so much on all the responsibilities that come along with playing center. Let a guy like Jared Anderson-Dolan worry about some of that. Get him onto a line with some speedy players, with actually Janssen-Fjällby, with Jared Anderson-Dolan, see if those guys can fly up and down the ice. And that seemed to work out well for him. They put together a group with Mason Shaw, Dominic Toninato, and Parker Ford, and they were all over the opposition. That's 3 guys that aren't a whole lot of fun to play against. So the Moose were finding some combinations that were working. They've been rotating through some defensemen here as they've got 8 very capable defenders now that they can roll out at any one time. So for the Moose, it's going to be to try and that's the $1 million thing, right? If you can bottle what they were able to do on Sunday and put it forward, then who knows? Maybe they are able to get on a run. But it's a team that has been starved for offense, and oh boy, were they feasting on Sunday.
You mentioned Parker Ford. We've had a great chance to talk to him a couple times since he's been here in Winnipeg. I know he's a popular member of the team. What was it like to see him get the call up in Boston, of all places, just down the road from where he grew up, and score in his first NHL game. And how was he received back with the fellas in the room after he returned from his NHL call-up and first NHL goal?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think I was talking to Remis maybe that day, I want to say, maybe in the afternoon, something like that. Yeah, and so we were able to, a few of us, find a spot. Initially, we found one spot to go, and all of a sudden, just as the game starts out, the blackout kicks in because they weren't on center ice. They were just on Nesson, and panic was on. I literally went running out the door down the street to another spot and ran in and said, "Can you guys put the Jets and the Bruins on?" They looked at me like I was insane, went, "Yup," threw it on this massive screen on the end wall, and went, "Okay," called the rest of the crew to get in there. So a few of us were able to watch that game and have it in very large HD detail when he scored that goal. So that was pretty cool. And I don't know if that establishment had ever seen a random hockey game get such a ovation for, what was it, the fifth or sixth goal of the night in a kind of a blowout. So that was a lot of fun, but it was cool talking to a lot of the players the next day who found it on a TV somewhere or had their phone and were watching it. Was a couple other guys. Tyrell Bauer was just giddy. He's Parker Ford's roommate here in Winnipeg, so he was having a great time with it. And just to see everything, and you know what, I think that the Jets have some pretty cool content still coming out from that game, some of the behind the scenes stuff. But for him to have that opportunity with his family and his friends and talking to him, that just meant the world to him, to have that opportunity, to have all the people who love him and have helped him to get to that point in the stands, be able to watch that. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any better. I mean, that's why we love sports, right, Huss? It's for moments like that Hollywood scriptwriters can't even come up with. It's just too perfect, and it was really, really cool to see.
I was in Costa Rica, and I'm following the game on my phone, and I had a couple bets on, Kyle Connor to score or whatever it was. So I'm sort of following it. It looked like it was they were in a very good spot. Of course, Scheifele continuing to stick it to Don Sweeney. But my phone blew up when Parker Ford scored. And, then to be able to go back and see the shots of his family and everything. I mean, you're right. I mean, it was a storybook NHL debut for the young man from Rhode Island. And
frankly, Huss, the smart money would have been on him to score, because the Jets have had, I saw the stat later that night, a pile of players score in their NHL debuts. I mean, notably Nikita Chibrikov, Sami Niku, Patrick Laine, Nick Petan. The list goes
John
on.
Albert.
Jacob Trouba, John Albert. Yeah, exactly. So the list goes on. And Ford had scored 7 goals in 9 games leading up to that as well. So he was the hot hand. But
he kept it going on the weekend. I mean, he was one of the 3 guys that had a multi-goal game on the weekend.
And man, it could have been 4 or 5. And he scored that second goal. He had another chance maybe about a minute later that Samuel Halavai just got a blocker on. And then Dylan Ferguson made a good save on him in the third period. And then he hit the post with about 2 seconds left. Ben Gislason from the Iowa Wild, who's calling their games, just looked over at me from the other broadcast booth and shook his head when that one rang off the pipe. But he's got the hot hand right now, and it's a lot of fun to watch him get going. Definitely seems like he's a bit of a second half player, because he went on quite the run in the second half last season as well. So he's found that offensive stride, and you add that to the rest of his toolkit, and he's a lot of fun.
Finker, fill us in on how Elias is doing. Elias Salmonson, who of course was the Jets or the Moose representative at the AHL All-Star game, but had been out for a significant period of time. He got in on the offense on the weekend, but fill us in on how he's looked since he's been back.
I will do that. And then I owe somebody in the chat a little chat about another defenseman as well. So I'll carry on right from there from the previous visit. Because I shorted him on the Bauer talk last time. But for Salamonson, great to see him back in the lineup on that previous road trip. Obviously, it was tough that his absence ended up being a little more extended than I think folks were hoping. But wanted to make sure that he was back fully healthy. And as a bonus, he was there just in time to get out for the AHL All-Star Classic in Coachella Valley. So great opportunity for him to kind of rub shoulders with some of the AHL's best. He was telling some folks, I believe it was Mike McIntyre the other day, was telling him he met some other Swedes at that event as well. So they always seem to be able to find each other. But it was a good event, and you know what? He came up with some big goals in that one. Scored in the semifinal, or to send his team to the final, and then in the final, he scored their only goal for the Central Division before they eventually won in a shootout, thanks to Kevin Korchinski of the Rockford Ice Hogs. So you look at what he was able to accomplish there. That was big, and then he comes back and picks up 2 assists on Sunday there as part of the win. So good to see that offense start to flow for him again as well. So you know what, this Moose group on the back end with him in the lineup and Dylan Coughlin and now Isaac Phillips is an addition. When you have Tyrell Bauer in there, Ashton Sautner, Simon Lundmark, Dawson Barteau, Dylan Anhorn, they have lots of options on the back end and can be pretty hefty back there as well. So it's certainly a group that I think is still kind of settling into some new formations and how they all relate to each other, but certainly a little more weighty than they were at times throughout the first half of the season. And Salamont's a big part of that. And as mentioned, got to get the Bauer talk in there. Is interesting to see kind of him fit in with Isaac Phillips, which is kind of a good foil for him for a little while there. Kind of Phillips plays such a nasty game that I think Bauer can really relate to and play with, and they seem to line up well. He's going to be skating with Simon Lundmark, who's going to play on his offside here tonight, so that gives Bauer a real nice puck-moving D-man to work with as well. So I don't know if there's going to be a whole ton of action around those two. They're so solid defensively, so looking forward to it. And you know what? We saw Bauer involved in between the whistles, some of the extracurriculars as well on that previous road trip with Yannick Turcotte, and of course a bit of a brouhaha, if you will, with the Chicago Wolves. We've never said that before in Moose and Wolves history.
Never.
Yeah, so he's been involved that way, and again, just kind of talking about his relationship with Parker Ford and how excited he's been to see his teammates succeed in that way. That's been really cool too. So looking forward to a big night here for Tyrell Bauer. He wasn't in the lineup last time around, so certainly that competition for ice time is going to be starting to, I think, elevate a lot of games.
By the way, podcast listeners, we've got some tickets we're giving away for the game on Friday night. If you want to take us up on that, head on over to our website and enter at winnipegsportstalk.com. And if you're with us right now, right at the top of the chat, it is pinned, the link for the tickets to the Manitoba Moose giveaway for Friday night. Fink, just before we go, fill us in on this road trip and when people can come out and see the herd.
Yeah, it's nice time to have the homestand here, of course, with the Jets on the break. But of course, tonight's game, 7:00 at Canada Life Center, taking on the division-leading Texas Stars. Always a treat when these two teams get together. There's always something that happens. It's always an entertaining matchup between these two teams. Whether it goes the Moose way or doesn't, it's usually something crazy happens. But always a lot of fun between these two clubs, and a very entertaining Texas team as well. They've scored a ton of goals, so it'll be incumbent on the Moose to shut them down, including their former teammate and Kyle Capobianco. They'll be in town for the next couple days. You already mentioned that Friday night tilt. It's the Valentine's Day game, so be sure to bring your date along or find one maybe at the Moose game on Friday. Looking forward to that one. Should be a lot of fun as well. And then it's a busy week right here. It keeps on rolling right into Sunday for Follow Your Dreams Day. You can check out the new Follow Your Dreams Day jerseys, the indigenized Moose jerseys on our social channels right now. Very cool white version of that jersey with a lot of orange through it as well. Very cool reveal video as well with a young archer. That's it's one of the cooler reveal videos we've done. So be sure to check that one out. And again, that's a 2:00 puck drop on Sunday for Follow Your Dreams Day, and then all the way on to Monday, the holiday Monday. Of course, that's become the annual Superhero Day. So going to have some characters on the concourse, things like that, and going to have a lot of fun with the Milwaukee Admirals in town, including former Moose Chase DeLeo, who is back in the Central Division after playing in the Pacific and in the North Division and all over for the last little bit. So crazy to think that he's in his 10th pro season. I had a chance to catch up with Chase when we were in Milwaukee. So from a player that was kind of part of that first Moose crew back here in Winnipeg and coming into town this weekend with the Milwaukee Admirals. So some very good teams the Moose are up against over the next 4 games of this homestand. And it's going to be some excellent hockey. So be sure to get your tickets at moosehockey.com/tickets. 7:00 the next 2 games, 2:00 the 2 after that. I'm really looking forward to them.
10 years in the league for babyface Chase.
Isn't that wild, hey? I aged 10 years when he said that.
We're getting old, dude. Hey, listen, have a great call tonight. Good luck to the squad on the weekend. And thanks, as always, for jumping on with us, Dan.
Thanks, Gus. Good to chat with you.
Good stuff. There is Dan Fink. You can hear the games, moosehockey.com, cgob.com. But the best place to catch the Moose is in the building. Game tonight, Friday. And then the big one, Sunday afternoon. No conflicts with Four Nations. Follow Your Dreams game. That will be certainly one of the biggest games of the year. All right. We still have a few orders of business to get to, including checking the lines over at Coolbet for tonight's Canada-Sweden game. Let's get Remis back in here. And again, if you came in late, thanks to everyone that joined us and played in our lock shop poker tourney with Winnipeg Sports Talk and Edmonton Sports Talk last night over at Coolbet. Congratulations to Randy River, a.k.a. Randy D. He took me out in the final two. Was a great tournament, though. We both made a little bit of money, had a lot of fun doing it. We will have another tournament coming up in March. Potentially might move it to Sunday now that the NFL is over. But we'll confirm that date probably after Four Nations. But if you missed it, make sure to join us next time. It was a heck of a lot of fun, and congratulations again to Randy. Straight to the Four Nations face-off for tonight. If you want picks on the golf, Pat and I, at the end of today's lock shop, after talking hockey for about 40 minutes, dove into the Genesis, couple picks for the Live Adelaide event. But here we have it, folks. No surprise. Canada is a minus 235 favorite to Sweden. Sweden plus 195 for tonight's game. The total is 6. Over 6, minus 120. Under 6, plus 102. Oh, and I see the number on the Canada puck line has dropped as well if people bet it. It was plus 111 earlier when we did the lock shop. It's now down to minus 104 for Canada, minus 1.5. I like the over in this game, Remo. Obviously, I'm taking Canada to win the game, but I think if you want a more manageable number, I think that over 6. And I did put together a little exclusive for tonight in the lock shop partner parlay and the exclusives. I think we're going to see the leaders of this new generation step up big time tonight. How about a Canada win with McDavid and McKinnon both getting 2 points or more? I'm in on that. It's plus 525. Who are you looking at player-wise to step up and get on the scoreboard tonight?
Yeah, how about Sam Reinhart, Huss? He's playing on that top power play. Maybe he kind of not as low odds to, get points or shots as, McDavid and McKinnon, not as flashy of a name. How about Sweden, though? Maybe there's some value on Sweden here. Sorry, I'm clicking NHL. Philip Forsberg, he's on the top line. Adrian Kempe as well. I mean, Forsberg minus 105 to get a point. I mean, how about the one thing that stood out to me, Jesper Bradhus, playing third line on Sweden.
Yeah, with Eriksson Ek, who's basically the shutdown. Although Brad's so fast, maybe they do have him in a little bit of a... I mean, listen, the guy can still score. But I think that line, Jeek is going to be the guy I would imagine that the United States wants to put up against one of McDavid or McKinnon in that matchup.
Yeah, Jesper, man, he's 11th in the NHL in points, plus 123 to get a point. Him or Kempe. Maybe there's some val there because all the Canada guys, everyone thinks, McDavid is minus 274, McKinnon minus 254, Crosby 221. Like Morrissey, he's the first plus player, plus 112. He's not getting power play time. He practiced on power play 2, but when Konechny came back, they dumped him. They removed him for Konechny. So we'll see, maybe you go, the 2 points is the move, Huss, with McDavid and McKinnon and the win. So I'm interested to see how it works out. Some fun fantasy league betting opportunities going on. I remember doing pools and the 06 Olympics. I was in a pool, 2010 in a pool, 2014. So There could be some opportunities here for a short, on a short series.
Yeah, well, if you want to get a pool together, you better do it before 7 o'clock tonight. Figure out a way to make that happen. Easiest way is just to go over and bet the guys that you think will do well in the tournament over at Coolbet. Let me just see. I've got a bunch of Kyle Connor futures just going into my pending wagers. Kyle Connor, total points in the tournament, over 3.5. Is it even money? I'm in on that. I did hit a couple of the Kyle Connor futures. Kyle Connor to be top goal scorer for Team USA, 7-1. And if you want a bit of a longer shot, I mean, I think we all expect USA to be in that final game and play the full 4. How about Kyle Connor to be top tournament goal scorer, 16-1? I'm in on that as well. A couple other value bets I made. Cale Makar to be the top point scorer for Canada. That's 10-1. The McDavid line is pretty short. McKinnon right after him. I mean, Makar plays so much. He's so dynamic. Wouldn't at all surprise me if he could lead the team. So Makar's in at 10-1. And then from Sweden, Reem, I know we went over the lines earlier, but Mika Zibanejad playing with William Nylander in the middle of the Swedes' top power play. He's had sort of a down year, but this is a great opportunity for him. He's 14-1 to be the Swedes' top point scorer. So I'm in on that as well. But we've got plenty. There's a good combo card as well. Just simple. Canada win against Sweden, Finland to win against, USA to win against Finland. That's boosted to even money. And a few others in the chat tonight. Patty's got one. Oh, the Super Boost is now at -102. Patty's got some others. And here's one for tonight's game. Sidney Crosby to get a point. Connor McDavid to score. +329. Oh, and Josh Morrissey's on our points from the point. A Morrissey point and a Makar point. Boosted to +256. So check out all those combo cards at the top of the site. Hit on the exclusives for our the one I put together. 2 points from McDavid, 2 points from McKinnon, and a Canada win. And then we just sit down and watch this game tonight at 7. It can't come soon enough.
Yeah, I'm curious. Morrissey paired with Colton Parayko. How many minutes? When you see, I saw him listed as the third pair at one point, but lately he's the second pair with Doughty Theodore. I mean, this is pretty awesome. Counting down 7 o'clock, nice start there, and yeah, generational talents. Players from Crosby's like the older early 2000s era, McDavid mid 2000s. But it was interesting your conversation with Murat about a player like Tyler Seguin, who was a top player for like 10 years, but not getting really the opportunity to play
the wrong
Canada.
10 years.
Hey, the wrong 10 years. So hey, this is going to be great. And how about Morrissey, Crosby, Marner in the dish and dimes parlay? All interesting opportunities. They're haven't done a DraftKings lineup or anything either. There's just too many good players. It's like an all-star game, but it seems like they're going to be trying for real.
I'm just looking at the defensive pairings. Where the heck is Rasmus Andersson?
Man, Sweden's D is good. He's healthy scratch. Like, he's not in it. They picked Carlson over him, which I would probably rather have Rasmus Andersson. But Carlson was named to the tournament like in the summer when we were in Vegas at the draft. You had to name 6 guys early. I guess for like marketing purposes. I remember they did this in the Olympics. And Carlson was on there, and everyone's like, I don't know. But yeah, they have him on the second pair. I mean, their D is very good. Their fourth line is maybe not the best, but like, how much are you going to be playing that fourth line? I really like Sweden's team. I'm curious how they're going to perform in tough against Canada. But yeah, that D is very solid, and defensively, Carlson probably the weak link. They'd rather have Rasmus Andersson out there. Like, how much offense, do you need in a tournament like this?
Philip Gustafsson gets the start for the Swedes. Jordan Binnington in net tonight for Team Canada. Again, all the odds up right now at Coolbet. Use the promo code WST if you haven't played there before for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And just checking to make sure that there's been no line movement. The Jets still 13-1 now after being 15-1 when we talked about it at the beginning of last week to win the Cup, along with Avalanche, Capitals, Devils, and Maple Leafs, all 13-1. The Oilers are the favorite at 6-1. K-Reed, we've got a couple minutes left. Do we want to do our the quarter century teams?
We can do it quick. Here, I do want to give a shout out, Hess, to Winnipeg Jets forward Rasmus Kupari announced his engagement today on Instagram.
Whoa, Coop put a ring on it.
His fiance Jasmina, the Jets, commenting congratulations. I see Velarde's girlfriend in there. She says congratulations, so happy. Sandberg's wife, glowing, triple exclamation mark, congrats you two. Kiss emoji, heart emoji. So if you want to say like the Jets are like a family, look who's all the comments are on this one. So congratulations to Rasmus and Jasmina on their engagement. Looks like they're in Mexico there.
Yeah, Cabo San Lucas. Well, hey, maybe he'll have a little engagement boost coming back. Hey, he was playing his ass off going in. He's had a great season overall. For my money, maybe not the biggest surprise, but right up there with the most pleasant surprises this year for the Winnipeg Jets. So, yeah, fill people in. The NHL is doing this quarter century team, and voting is open right now at NHL.com, and it is not easy.
No, I looked at the century team. I was super excited. NHL.com/vote. They did their, quarter century teams, for each team. Now it's for the league. And I mean, this is going back I did from 2000 to 2001 season to current day. Really, really tough. And I looked at, just quickly looked at, points, games played, who's winning trophies. During that, I came up with my team. There were a couple players that I think were no-brainers and maybe a couple tough decisions to come up with 10. But then you look at the players you selected and you're like, oh man, I left out a ton of guys who, have, a case, I think, to be on there.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, well, you want to run through yours and then I'll do mine. Do you have
I'll tell you the no-brainers for me. Crosby and Ovechkin, I mean, when you think of the last 25 years of hockey, they got to be on. Oh, man, I didn't have McDavid on here, but, I mean, you could probably put him on the list. But I did have Joe Thornton on.
What?
He's what do you mean? Yeah, he's leading. He's among the best in points. He was
over McDavid?
Hart Trophy. Yeah, what do you mean?
Who's got
I have
5 scoring titles and, 3 Hearts?
And he's the quarter century. I went for like duration of players who are playing the throughout that time. So I went with longevity for some of these instead of, I guess, short bursts of excellence. Although you could make an argument either way. Thornton third among all players in points from 2000 to 25. So I guess how do you want to do it? I mean,
well, hey, you just have to do it. I certainly did not. I didn't even consider Joe Thornton. He was just he's like a guy that played a long time. But
I mean, he went Art Ross. He was in the leaders of assists every year. He was a top player for San Jose. They didn't have the playoff success. He
won one trophy. He played never won a cup.
He played for Team Canada 2002. Played for them 2010. I think Joe Thornton longevity. I think he's up for consideration. Third among all players in points since 2000.
Okay, keep it going. And again, you can vote for 10 players.
You can vote for 10. I mean, I think you can make an argument either way. I put Anze Kopitar on my team. 2 Stanley Cups, captain.
Great choice.
Leader for Slovenia. Good two-way players. He's 6th among all players in points for this era, and he is for games played 7th in games played. So I'm a big it's kind of a biased pick. I like Anze Kopitar, so I put him on. This one was tough. I put this guy on. I could probably take him off, but Patrice Bergeron, elite, two-way center,
I didn't have
Stanley Cup
Bergeron,
champion.
but that was tough to leave off. I took 6 forwards, 2 defense, and 2 goalies. And
yeah.
So, anyways, continue with the guys that you have on.
Okay, I did 7 forward or 6. I did 3 defense and 1 goalie. I don't want to pick goalies. Like other ones I considered ahead of Bergeron. Like I didn't put I would put Malkin ahead of him. I don't have Malkin on. Like he probably should.
Yeah, Malkin was a tough omission for my vote.
But like you can only pick so many guys. Patrick Kane I put on. Multiple Stanley Cup champion, Team USA, highlight reel player. I think he's among points. Let me see points leaders. He's among the points leaders since 2000. He's 5th in points. So I like Pat Kane. And then defense, I got Chara, Norris Trophy winner. He played the most games in this. Second behind Marleau for most games. Shutdown D, Stanley Cup champion. Duncan Keith, multiple Norrises, Team Canada, 2010, 2014. I like Duncan Keith. And then I didn't have this guy, but you were told me he won 6 Norris trophies. The games played wasn't in terms of the whole era, but Nick Lidstrom, he's the best ever.
To me, Nick Lidstrom was the first guy I put on my team.
Yeah.
He was the most automatic of any player. 6 Norris trophies. It's easy to have recency bias, but if we're talking about a quarter century team, we've got to consider guys that dominated earlier on in this period for the same reason why a guy like McDavid, I think, should be on. Let's see where we were different. So I started with Lidstrom, or did we miss anyone? Or did you?
I put Carey Price in net, but I didn't look at goalie stats. I revoke that pick. And
Marty Brodeur. So here.
I went with
Lidstrom. Lidstrom was the first guy I put on my team. Sidney Crosby, Martin Brodeur, Alex Ovechkin, Patrick Kane. Right off the bat, those guys, I think, to me, were absolute locks. McDavid, I think, absolutely has a spot on this team based on everything that he's done. Really, the only thing he hasn't done yet is won a cup. They got to Game 7 last year. But I love your pick of Kopitar, and he was on my team as well. Kopitar, who has had his entire... Absolutely. If you think about Kopitar's career, he's now playing his, 20th season or 19th season. He's got 1,426 games, 1,256 points, and another 80 and 97 games, and 2 Stanley Cups. He, as much as any player in this conversation outside of Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin, I think has sort of transcended the two ends of this conversation. Being a very impactful player and a cup winner in the first half of this 25-year period, and then as well in the second half, and still playing at a crazy level right now at 37 years old. So yeah, Kopitar and McDavid. I mentioned Ovechkin already, and then it got really tough. I actually, and again, this is probably one that it was tough. I took Nathan McKinnon over Malkin, over Bergeron. But if you look at Malkin's, to me, it's really tough. And probably if you add the body of work, Malkin probably deserves it more. I don't know. Maybe again, this is a little recency bias on me, but McKinnon led his team to a cup as the guy. Although, they did have McKinnon and, Makar and all that. I also took Duncan Keith. Figured I needed to have another defenseman. Drew Doughty, Duncan Keith, Chara, the 3 cups, the 2 Norris trophies, the length of career, although Chara was longer than everyone, gave the nod to Duncan Keith. And I had to show my Winnipeg roots, and I will make this argument right now. Connor Hellebuck got my vote for the quarter century team, and I am including this year in this voting. He is a lock for the Vezina Trophy, could potentially win the Hart. Outside of Martin Brodeur, there is nobody in the last 25 years that has won 3 Vezina trophies. And hey, you add a cup to that mix, I think he would be a lock. Certainly you can say Carey Price would be there, but as I said, I mean, we're looking at a guy that's doing things that almost nobody has done, winning this 3rd Vezina trophy. So that's my argument for Helly, although I'll certainly hear other ones. But a very fun exercise. You can vote up to 10 times a day.
Malkin, he won a Hart Trophy. One player I considered for longevity and did win a Hart Trophy. Did win a Stanley Cup. Corey Perry. No one, played for a long time. He played on Team Canada. One player who deserves consideration, Jarome Iginla. 1,200 games, 1,100 points, Team Canada, top player. Stamkos as well, top goal scorer. But I think they're just behind.
I think those guys deserve consideration, but I couldn't put either of them ahead of Kopitar.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, these are really, really all-time good players, that you have to only pick 10. Eric Stahl, I thought was a very good Stanley Cup champion, captain, but he doesn't make the cut. Joe Pavelski, he's behind them. Sedin's, they're just behind. Marian Hossa was very good. Had to retire due to the skin condition. Unfortunate. Who knows what would have happened if he didn't have to retire. So career cut short.
When his contract went to $1 million a year. So it's just tragedy.
He was
timing of it all.
He was excellent. And even a guy, Jaromir Jagr, still played 1,000 games after 2000, and I think he still has some great years. The funny thing
was, I was just looking at the Art Ross winners.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Art Ross winners, Jagr, at the beginning of this, let's just pull this up. I got Hockey Reference right here. Jaromir Jagr, see, it was just the tail end, but he won 4 straight. 98, 99, 2000, and 2001. I mean, he played forever. But if we're talking about starting in that 2000, 2001 campaign, it's really tough to put him on. But, I mean, he's on most of the all-time teams. Malkin won the scoring title as a 22-year-old in 08-09, and then won it again as a 25-year-old in 2011-2012. He definitely won a Hart Trophy. His numbers are pretty good, too. I mean, I wouldn't vote for him, and he's not taking out anyone on my list, but Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn's almost at 1,000 points in and around 1,000 games. He won kind of the most dubious Art Ross of all time. And that was part of the reason why a goalie won the Hart Trophy that year, because the forwards didn't really stand out. But, I mean, McDavid has won 5 of the last 8 Art Ross trophies.
Yeah,
he's in.
I should probably put him on, but that's too easy. I'm putting on Joe Thornton for his longevity. Ginla, Art Ross, St. Louis as well. Very good in that time. Sedin's each with an Art Ross. So this is tough. And looking at defense, someone said Byfuglien. I considered Byfuglien as a homer pick. I obviously wasn't gonna do it but in terms of uniqueness, you can say whatever you want for all-time team. He won a Stanley Cup. Played for 10 years. There was no other player like him. Got to have a homer pick somewhere. Sure, why not throw in a vote for
I think our
Byfuglien.
legitimate argument for Hellebuck probably holds up a lot more than Buff. Now, depending on if you had the most unique players of the last 25 years of all time, Buff's right at the top. But anyways, so go to NHL.com, make your votes. Maybe what we'll do is we can poll, or people can send in their picks, and we'll compare to who the fan winners are. But anyways, that was a fun exercise to do today. You can do that over the next couple hours while you're waiting for this puck drop to drop on the game tonight. That is going to do it for us today, though, gang. Can't wait for this game tonight. Again, if you want to grab one of these, head on down to Royal Sports. And do not forget, check my pinned tweet, the information for those Jets packages, the trip to Green Bay, the Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, hosted by me, all up there. Let's get some bids in, help that Health Science Center Foundation. And obviously, you can make a donation there as well. And don't forget, link in the description or on our website. Jump on. We're now under 20 tickets left for the whiskey tasting and Jets Preds at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. Would love to see you there. Should be a heck of a fun night like it was last year. Thanks again to all the sponsors. Thanks to Fink. Thanks to John Hodge, Murat, and Rob Mollowney from the Jets organization popping on the program today. Go Canada, go. Let's see our boy Josh Morrissey go out and have a great game tonight. Canada get a win. We'll break it down tomorrow. We'll get ready for USA Sweden with Hellebuck and Connor in action. USA Finland. And more on the Four Nations tomorrow. That is going to do it for us. Have a great night. Enjoy the game. We'll see you tomorrow. Live at 1 on YouTube on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.